So let's keep reading the rest of this text, starting in paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4. One part of Obama's overall program is the Healthy, Hunger-Free Kids Act. It's an update to the National School Lunch Program, which has helped pay for school meals since 1946. More than 30 million students benefit from it. Yet, over the past 15 years, the program hasn't changed much. More fruit and vegetables. The Institute of Medicine has pushed for healthier school meals. It recommends meals containing fewer calories, less fat and salt, and more fruit, vegetables, and whole grains. So we're going to stop and talk about this piece of evidence. It says the Institute of Medicine recommends this change in diet for kids. The Institute of Medicine sounds to me kind of like an expert. So for this type of evidence, I'm leaning towards calling this one an expert opinion. I'll say expert opinion because the Institute of Medicine is an expert group. In the same way that a professor or a doctor would be an expert. Institute of Medicine. Now, expert opinions, are they reliable or unreliable? Are they kind of reliable? I'm going to say that this one is fairly reliable because expert opinions are pretty trustworthy, but the problem is sometimes they can contradict or go against one another, so we want to be on the lookout for that as readers. Most parents would agree these are excellent goals. Along with the menu changes, the new law makes it easier for low-income and foster kids to have school meals. It helps pay for their meals. However, the government only sets guidelines. Local school systems create their own menus. Don't believe ridiculous rumors. There is nothing in the law that prevents bake sales or birthday cakes in the classroom. Still, there have been glitches. For instance, it turned out many high school athletes needed more protein than the guidelines allowed. The government responded by changing the regulations. Most school systems are working with Washington to go along with the changes. More than 90% now meet the new guidelines. Studies show most kids have grown to like the new healthier choices. But some people prefer attacking the law to improving it. There have been efforts in Congress to hold off on the new nutritional standards for a year. Some supporters of healthy nutrition say junk food sellers are trying to influence Congress to prevent the new standards. Kids resist healthy food. It should be no surprise to any parent that kids resist healthy food. This statement is kind of problematic to me because it has in it some really broad general statements, such as no surprise to any parent and the word kids, as if all kids are the exact same, everywhere in the country, all kids resist healthy food. This type of statement is not a good type of evidence. What we call this, you might remember this from our notes, this is an example of a generalization or stereotype because it makes a broad statement about all kids. Some kids might like healthy food. But instead, this author simply says kids resist healthy food. Whenever we see generalizations or stereotypes, we immediately want to think to ourselves, these are unreliable. They are not valid. It should be no surprise to any parent that kids resist healthy foods. But just like home-cooked food, with sufficient time and encouragement, children can be persuaded to try new foods. Eventually, they come to enjoy them. School systems that made the changes slowly found students more ready to accept them. Groups that promote good nutrition, such as the Food Research and Action Center, completely support the new meal standards, and they are fighting efforts to weaken them. A study done by Congress this year found that the new standards were achieving the goal of better nutrition for kids. It blamed the problems of putting them in place on the speed and size of the changes. The government has been contributing food and money to our schools to improve student nutrition for years. Such aid is good for kids, good for education, and good for our country. Over the years, aid has helped kids afford breakfast as well as lunch. Obama's campaign is just the latest effort to make sure our kids eat right at school. It deserves every parent's support. Now we're going to switch things up. You guys are going to try this next article on your own. I want you to listen and read along with me. Pause after highlighted excerpts to state the type of evidence and judge the validity or reliability. I'm not going to be writing this section with you on your triple entry diary. This is going to be you independently practicing what we just did together. So this is the other side of the argument. Con. It's too much government control. Washington. The purpose of the National School Meal Program should be to meet students' needs, but for that to happen, it must be accepted that parents know what's best for their children. Neither First Lady Michelle Obama nor our leaders in Congress should think they do. Unfortunately, new school meal standards ignore parents. Called the Healthy, Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010, the standards started to go into effect 2 years ago. The standards come from a government that thinks it knows everything. Those who dare to speak against these standards have quickly felt the wrath of Obama and her supporters. Too many don'ts. It's not just politicians who have felt the anger of the First Lady. The School Nutrition Association represents more than 55,000 school nutrition experts. It sent a letter to the First Lady expressing disappointment. The group said some of her comments put down school nutrition professionals. The new meal standards try to control everything about what's served to children. They place severe restrictions on calories, nutritional content, and portion sizes. Some schools have left the program. They'd rather sacrifice the huge amounts of money it offers to be free from its restrictions. Our government believes it must control nutrition in the schools. It assumes parents can't be trusted to teach their children how to make the right food choices. Supporters of the law claim that parents need help. They believe parents can't ensure their kids are eating properly at school. Of course, parents can't know every single thing that their children eat at school. Yet this doesn't mean parents haven't taught their children how to make the right choices. Parents concerned about the food provided to their children at school are much better off going to local officials to address these issues. They will generally get the chance to meet with the officials and have their voices heard. Parents aren't going to get very far trying to convince DC politicians about their concerns. Officials have their hands tied because these new standards don't let them address many concerns. It's too expensive. If the new standards gave more choices to states and local authorities, it would help officials better meet the needs of their students. Not only that, but it would also give parents a greater say in the food provided through meal programs. The standards have faced criticism from nutrition officials. The Government Accountability Office surveyed state nutrition officials. It found that local school food authorities had concerns about the lunch standards, from uneaten food to the cost of meeting the new standards. The National School Board Association cautioned school boards cannot ignore the higher costs created by the rules. Some schools have reportedly even taken money away from teacher pay to cover the extra costs. Worse, students are disgusted by the food provided to them. According to the GAO report, students in one district refused to eat school lunches for 3 weeks. Students are posting their anger over the program using Twitter at #ThanksMichelle. The First Lady and other supporters of the standards haven't listened to complaints. They've even opposed giving some poorer schools a 1-year break from going along with the standards. Nothing, it seems, will be allowed to slow it from taking effect. And that's a shame. The meal standards aren't fit for our students. They need to be scrapped. So at this time, hopefully you have finished doing your triple entry diary and you're ready to answer this one final question. The question is, which of the above sides, pro or con, did a better job of making their argument reliable and valid? Why is that argument more believable and trustworthy? Last thing you're going to do independently today is write your response to that question. Once you're done with that, return to the blend space and you can work independently on the next couple tiles. The quiz at the bottom, we're going to wait and do that as an exit ticket at the end of class.